You know what our paid ads budget was every month?
Zero.
Zero. Realtors who hire us have literally gone from making $120,000 to $250,000. I'm not shitting you. I literally got this set up, turned the camera on, and plugged stuff in with 10 seconds to spare before we started recording. I was making more money than my parents. I'm making $10,000, $15,000 a month, which was like a fortune, especially when you're 23 years old. One year I cleared $150,000.
This is the Content Capitalists Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast, where we have conversations with people doing at least $1 million a year in their business, many times a lot more. Now, my guest today comes from a background. Well, I'm going to actually rewind that, and not figuratively. I met him just recently on the beautiful, beautiful tropical Costa Rica. And we had a bit of a chat there. And I said, you know what, you should come on the show, because then I get to have you for a full hour and ask all the questions I want.
Yeah, there you go.
And it would sound kind of awkward if I said, can you sit down here while I ask you a bunch of questions for an hour? But if I invite them to a podcast, this is my sneaky way of getting to know people really well and getting them to, be willing to unpack their story, not just for me, but for all the listeners as well. Tim, welcome to the show.
Ken, thanks. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Now, Tim, when we first met, this is a beautiful setting, and actually, at that setting, we were recording a lot of content on site, because a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, especially agency owners, they tend to neglect the regular content creation, because they want to just get down to running ads, optimizing funnels, SEO, and that stuff is important as well. But a lot of times they're like, what do they say? The cobbler's children have no shoes,
Yeah,
right?
right.
They forget to do their own stuff. And I think that was really cool how we were able to put that together at the event. But Tim, I'd love for you to just take a quick moment, describe who you help, how you help them, and what's your business about?
Yeah, so I started a company called Platform Marketing about 10 years ago now, which is like an eternity in the world of digital marketing. Like, I feel like an old guy when I'm at conferences and masterminds now, because there's so many people who have been in the game for 2 or 3 years and they're doing really, really cool things. And now I think back and I'm like, holy crap, it's actually been 10 years since I got started. So we're an agency that specializes in working with real estate agents, like residential real estate agents. What makes our business pretty unique is that we only work with one realtor per market, where most of our competition is much, much larger than us, and they'll take on like an unlimited number of agents. And actually, most of them specialize in working with bigger teams. So like, a broker who has a team of 20 agents or 10 agents or 50 agents. And I think just the reason is, if you're a marketing company, you want to work with people who have bigger advertising budgets, right? So we've kind of carved out a really unique niche in working with realtors, in that we work with individual agents. So think like our ideal client is maybe someone who made 120,000 last year, but they know that they're actually a better realtor than the competition in their town that's making $300,000 or $400,000 a year. And they know that marketing is that gap, right? If they just had better marketing, they could sell more homes and get more clients. So we like working with individual agents. We have about 220 clients as of this recording. Wow. And our goal is to be at 250 clients, hopefully at some point within the next 6 months. And we're on track to achieve that.
That's amazing. I really love that. And when you actually work with them, I know that there probably as many ways to market as there are, realtors out there. But what's your go-to strategy? I know some people work primarily on SEO. Some people do ads. Some people, what is it for you?
Yeah. So almost everyone in the real estate industry, it's almost like a waste of a question if you ask someone like, what are you doing for digital marketing? Because usually the answer is, well, Google ads, SEO, PPC and whatnot, LSA ads. But we're pretty unique in that regard too, in that we're just starting to offer Google ads in the last couple months, begrudgingly. But what we've done over the last 10 years is all social media ads. So it's Facebook ads and Instagram. And
Mm.
it's a strategy that's actually aged like fine wine because in the last couple years, obviously what's happened demographically in the United States is that there's almost no one under the age of 30 who's using Facebook anymore as their dominant social media of choice. Almost everyone has moved on to younger, sexier, cooler social media channels like, TikTok, obviously Snapchat, Instagram, and, most recently Threads just came out within the last like 48 hours as we're recording this. And so I get this question all the time from realtors who are thinking about hiring platform because they'll say, "Hey, I've been doing some research and it looks like you're really heavy into Facebook ads. Do you do other things besides that?" Because they think, "Oh, I don't want to go on Facebook. That's not the cool social media." And then I ask them, "Well, who's your ideal client? If you're a realtor, would you rather have a 45-year-old or 50-year-old or 60-year-old homeowner who probably has six figures of equity in their house and they're buying much more expensive houses, because they're in the peak earning years, right, of their career? Or would you rather have a first-time home buyer who's 24 years old, just graduated college, has student loan debt, credit card debt, a car loan, and that person's probably using TikTok, they're probably using Snapchat, Instagram, they probably are not on Facebook. Which lead would you probably have? Because Facebook leads are going to be very qualitatively different than all those other channels that I mentioned. And then they kind of like have that light bulb moment where like, "Oh, I see what you're saying."
Mm.
Like precisely because Facebook is the uncool old social media channel in certain industries, like I would argue real estate, it's the best customer acquisition channel because you actually want people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, because those are the people with money that are buying and selling more expensive homes. So we've really done that. We've focused on Facebook for the last 10 years, and we've really developed a strategy that I just call ads that don't look like ads. That's kind of our secret sauce
Mm.
is we don't do the typical, traffic ads where it's just driving someone to a website to, view active listings. Like we write really insightful essays, honestly. And usually we pair them with a family photo or some sort of actual photo of the client. So we would never use stock ads, right? Always an actual photo of the client and their family, a client and their son or daughter or husband or wife or their dog or on vacation somewhere. And we'll write like an essay about a life lesson about something that's taking place in that photo or in that video. And it doesn't look like an ad, right? That's the whole
I love
point. I
that.
think if
Love that
you
strategy.
if you want to be successful with social media marketing, you have to put the social back in social media, right? So the
Yeah.
less that your ads look like ads, the more successful they're going to be.
Yeah. What you said earlier, and this is for the listeners about choosing the platform based on who your ideal customer is. I think it sounds so obvious, but a lot of people forget that. They get, like all entrepreneurs, shiny object syndrome. New platform here, the meteoric growth you see here and there, or some guru mentions this or that, the other. Um, all that is contextual to who are you selling to.
Right.
So what you said there is so important. If someone's only got 5 minutes to listen and they listened this far, I think they would have already gotten their values out of this
Hopefully,
episode. So
hopefully.
thanks for sharing that. Well, here's the thing. So I take a lot of courses. I go to a lot of workshops. I take a lot of marketing type
Yeah.
conferences, and I walk away and all I want to do is I think, what's the one thing I could take some action on that's going to move the needle the furthest? And then I just put everything I learned in that order. And if I can get past one, then that's a win, because
Yeah.
that usually is going to make the biggest difference. Well, as long as I order them correctly. So far that's been really valuable. It's a good reminder, even though logically we should have that at top of mind. We forget,
Yeah,
new
just
app,
just in the
new
last
platform.
in the last 24 hours, I've had multiple clients and even some of our employees on our team ask us like, "So, do we have a Threads strategy? Are we going to get into Threads?" That was made as new announcement that like they're calling it part of Instagram, but it's obviously a completely separate product.
Yeah, I
But
wonder why they're doing that. It's
it's
kind of a funny kind of thing. It says Threads by
yeah,
Instagram.
it's very
And
obviously
also,
just trying to coast off of the brand name of Instagram, but simultaneously they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to be positioned as an entirely new thing so that in case
yeah.
Instagram ever becomes less popular and starts being uncool, kind of like Facebook did, right? They want
Mm,
Threads to feel young and hip and sexy for Gen Z. So I mean,
yeah.
it's kind of a brilliant strategy, but to be honest, I don't know if people are going to abandon their Twitter following that they may have built up over the
I don't
last
know that
five
either.
or
But then
five or
here's the
10
thing.
years.
I think there's a lot of people who are, they're the people who are more left leaning, they're scared of Twitter now.
Sure,
They're just like, oh no, Twitter's coming to
sure.
space. It's going to become like Rumble, or something. So then they're going to flood over there and they're going to start doing that. And they like the whole, Mark Zuckerberg
Right.
ecosystem and his political
Yeah,
views.
yep.
So I think it might be more like a political statement to go there than a logistical
And
statement.
that's honestly part of why I'm skeptical of it. So having a, a new product or a new social media channel because it's a reflection of your politics, right? That's not really a business strategy. And so at a platform marketing for our realtors, like we're kind of hoping Threads works out because that would make my life a lot easier because all of our clients are already set up, in the Meta Business Manager and everything. So if Threads
The
becomes really,
Meta Business Manager, that's their secret tool to
yeah,
keep all the advertisers in,
yeah,
because you could synchronize all your ads across all of the
yep,
platforms in one place. That's brilliant. I keep saying this over and over, but I think that Mark Zuckerberg is the modern day Bill Gates, where he has the platform, and then if when there's competition, he either just buys them or he copies them to put them out of business. And that's, it's the same playbook Bill Gates did back in, when Windows was being developed, with the browsers,
sure,
with, Excel, with Office, with everything. And Mark Zuckerberg is doing the same thing, but across socials instead of across OSs. So,
yeah,
we might see the same path, end up in a similar way, and ultimately very, very successful, but also never like the coolest, the most cutting edge thing, because that's not how you make the most money. It's
right.
just by uh, keeping the most customers. That's all it is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not sure if it'll succeed because it's hard for me to imagine someone who spent, let's say, 10 years building up a Twitter following, just abandoning that because of a political statement to join
But look what Joe
Threads.
Rogan did. Didn't he sign $100 million deal with, was it
Yeah,
Spotify,
it
to
was a
exclusively?
Spotify, and now he's probably regretting it because I think he could make way more if he could get out of that contract. But I
Maybe.
have mixed feelings about it because like logic tells me that Twitter has just so much power because of network effects. People don't want to
Yeah.
abandon the audience they've
Yeah.
built. But at the same time, if
Well,
someone
if they could
already,
fix their ad platform, that
yeah,
would be amazing.
yeah, and
Like,
hopefully they figure it out because
yeah.
I would love the overall macro social media ecosystem to not be completely dominated by one company, Meta, right? It would be
Yeah,
good for there to be
absolutely.
competition both with YouTube ads, Twitter being a separate company,
I'm
obviously
with
the
you.
Meta platforms, like that's a healthy ecosystem, a little bit of a healthy balance. Like if Threads becomes really popular, it'll be a lot more convenient for us agencies. Like that's a win for me,
Mm.
but I don't know if it's necessarily a win for the average user out there, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, you know how in the, the ads platform, you put up like a few variations of titles, a few variations of descriptions, images, and it's going to mix and match those. I'd imagine that it's just going to be one tick box that says, "Would you like it to appear on Threads?"
Right.
And with zero extra work, they could just take the headline and the text and the image,
Yeah.
and uh, you might pick up more clients there, you might not, more leads. I mean, but it's,
That's
like
certainly
it
the way
just
things are
it's an
heading.
easy in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then when you start seeing more customers coming from that platform, then more money will go there. It's just, and then the platform will just divert the money where you get the best results. So yeah, they do have a huge advantage, and it just plugs into their ecosystem. Um, Here's what I want to do. I want to take us a little bit further back in time, because you just talked about how you're closing in on, it's close to 200 clients, right? Or a little bit over,
Yeah,
you
we're
say?
actually at 220 now, and
220
yeah,
clients.
yep.
Now, for an agency owner who might have his first one or two clients, they might look at you and be just like, that's so far removed from where I am. So, like, I don't know if I could ever do that. Could you take us back to when you first got started?
Yeah, so
What were you doing before you're an agency owner? And tell us the story of how you landed your first client.
I was in college before I was an agency owner, and I was majoring in economics and finance. And about my senior year, when it was time to start like applying for kind of the final internship, I realized, because I had wanted to be an investment banker. That's the reason I majored in finance. And I chose that because I Googled in college, what is the highest paying job that you can get after, an undergrad degree, after a 4-year degree. That was the amount of like research I put into what am I going to do for the rest of my life. I just Googled, how do I make the most money out of college? And Google told me investment banking. So I was like, okay, problem solved. I'll be an investment banker. Um, I didn't want to be, but that's just what Google told me I could make the most money doing. And it took me until my senior year to realize I would rather throw myself in front of a train than be an investment banker for the rest of my life. Like looking at Excel spreadsheets and doing finance calculations and discounted cash flow and, what's the net present value of this or that. Like I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. So I actually dropped out of college my senior year, which absolutely devastated my parents and my family because my dad actually didn't even have a high school degree. He dropped out of high school and he became a successful small business owner just with old fashioned hard work. And so it was kind of his like American dream that his kids would go to college and be successful and kind of, have that prestige that carries with you the rest of your life and kind of bringing honor to the Chermak family name, if you will, that he didn't even go to, he didn't even finish high school, but his kids would get college degrees. And so when I dropped out, it was absolutely devastating, but I knew deep down I was making the right decision. And what I was attracted to was marketing and advertising. I just was really fascinated with the idea of running ads, getting new customers for a business. So I dropped out and I just started going door to door to local small businesses in my hometown of Wilmer, Minnesota. It's a small town in central Minnesota, like 25,000 people right in the middle of the state, not near anything. I think the nearest airport was about 2.5 hours away growing up. So I just went door to door to financial advisors, staffing services, like gas station, convenience store, used car dealerships, CrossFit gyms, massage, spa. I mean, any type of small business I thought I could help get more business, I would walk in, ask to talk to the owner, and sometimes they would give me meetings, sometimes they wouldn't. I would kind of give them a 5-page marketing plan of just some marketing ideas, and I would give that to them for free because keep in mind I was like 22 years old, whatever I was, and I knew that I have zero credibility. I've never had a client before.
But where did you learn these things in the first place?
I just
Like that
read a
gave
ton
you.
of books.
So you read books.
Yeah, I
made
binged
some
on every Dan
strategies
Kennedy
that you've
book.
never actually used.
Yeah, exactly. I just binged on every Dan Kennedy book I could find on
Okay.
Amazon, Seth Godin. I mean, I was obsessed with reading marketing books. And this is kind of a cool story too. Like, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but when I was in college, I went to the bank to cash a check once, and the bank, the teller asked me, which checking account would you like to put that in, Mr. Chermak? I was like 19 years old or whatever. And I said, what do you mean I only have one checking account? They're like, no, you have two. And I said, I don't think so. And then they showed me, oh no, you have an account that was started like 18 years ago. And I was like, what? And so apparently I found out that night when I got home, what my parents had done is started a college savings fund for me by getting like a CD at the bank. And it was one of those deals where at age 18, it reverted to legally being in my name. And they just forgot about it because it wasn't a ton of money. I think there was maybe like $5,000 or something like that in there. It wasn't a ton of money. And so I just got home that night and I asked them about it and they barely remembered, but they're like, yeah, I think we did that. And so I just asked them, okay, well, being I dropped out of college, can I use this money to buy books? If I use it for that specific purpose, can I get a card and I'll put that card on my Amazon account. And if I promise you, I'll show you the receipts and everything. I will only use it to order books. Is that okay with you?
At this point, were they still a little bit angry at you?
Yes.
For the
yes.
Okay,
but
I can see the trepidation that you're asking them and all the respect and everything.
Yeah. And so they said yes, because I mean, as a parent, you probably kind of want your kid to like reading. You don't want to discourage that necessarily. And so I just went, hog wild ordering books on Amazon Prime, like any book on pricing, psychology, copywriting. I read all the, old school Claude Hopkins, books, scientific advertising. I probably read more books on marketing and advertising by age 25 than most people who work in marketing have read in their entire life. Like I actually have a library right over there.
Are you good at retaining this information, or are you the kind of person who has to read and take a bunch of notes and stuff, or is this all like up in the head?
That's a good question. I think a little bit of both. So I retain information really well. I was always a student who got really good grades in school, but as I got older, I realized that doesn't mean you're smart. It just means you're good at memorizing shit, right? So I have always been good at retaining information, but I also underline and I keep all my books. So I have a library, I was saying, over there with like 2,000 books in it. And I'm like 32 years old. So I think that's pretty impressive to have that many books. And it's because my parents.
That's more than I've read for sure.
Yeah. I mean, but I will give credit to my parents that they kind of gave me this head start with this, $5,000, I guess, venture capital reading fund, right? That gave me the courage to go out and buy a book on any topic that I wanted to. So that's how I taught myself marketing. I say that with like air quotes because I had no idea what I was doing. I had never had a client before. I just had a bunch of interesting ideas in my head that I hoped would work, right?
Yeah.
So this was before Facebook ads even came out, by the way. So this is all happening in like 2011, 2012, 2013, really before Facebook ads were really mainstream, had become a thing. So the first couple clients I picked up, I was actually doing direct mail. The first realtor that finally worked with me had no money. She told me, okay, I will be your first client, but I can't pay you. And I don't have any business to speak of. So we'll have to think of some creative arrangement of pay for
How does that
performance.
even work? What was her product?
Well, it was a realtor, and she
Okay.
had no business.
So she was gonna like do a profit share or something?
Yeah. So she had zero business in the pipeline. And she had no money for ads. And so she told me like, I might be a perfect client for you because if you can help me resurrect my business, it'll be the greatest case study ever. Because I'm actually looking for jobs. She was applying for jobs because she couldn't cut it anymore as an agent. And I knew it was serious when actually the first home that she wanted me to help her promote was her own home because she couldn't afford to live there anymore. She was behind on payments and she didn't want to lose it to the bank.
Crap.
So yeah,
like that's a sinking boat, and and you've got a little life raft that maybe can rescue it.
So all I owned at that time was I had filmed weddings in high school. That was one of the first businesses I started. I did wedding videography, and so I had like a pretty nice Sony camera at the time, and a tripod.
Let me ask you though, what made you like choose to take her on? Like, was it like was she like really gutsy, or like did she have like that verve that you sense that? Because a lot of times when I approach, there are a lot of people who want to work with my agency. A lot of times the condition of their business kind of helps me to gauge like maybe they're not like maybe I can do all this work, but they're not going to do anything with the leads, or they're not going to follow through on their commitments. So I shy away from that. Was it just because it's the first person that said yes, or was there something about her that made you take this risk?
Yeah, and I mean, to be totally honest, she was really the first person who said yes, and I was 22 years old, and I realized I need this case study. I need this opportunity. You know, I had a couple really smaller businesses earlier on that paid me like $500 a month to help them with kind of like small marketing stuff, but it wasn't anything that could, you know, even remotely pay my bills. And so I was looking for a true flagship type client that I could, you know, build something off of. There was no master plan to go into real estate. So it wasn't like I had this business plan of I'm going to build a real estate marketing agency. She just happened to be the first person who said yes. I mean, in an alternate universe, if that first client had been a financial advisor, maybe I would have started a financial advisor marketing agency, right? It was just kind of serendipitous that that's the way that it happened. And so basically the agreement we made was I would take 25% of all her commissions, regardless of where the deal came from. Because I told her, well, if I'm doing all your marketing and you have zero business coming in, I don't really want to have arguments of like, did this lead come from me or was it from your sphere? I just want 25% of everything because I had to spend my own money on the ads too. She didn't have money for an ads budget. So even if we were going to spend $200 on a Facebook campaign, that $200 was coming from me. So I was kind of like an active investor in her business as well as doing the marketing.
So you guys were both desperate.
Yes.
Is what it was.
Yes, absolutely. That is absolutely true. And so what happened was it was kind of cool timing. I helped her write a book because I had read in so many marketing books. I'll give a shout out to Dan Kennedy. I learned probably 99% of what I know now and what I knew then from Dan Kennedy books. And I had read many, you know, small businesses like, hey, if you author a book about your product or service or industry, it immediately positions you as an expert, right? The root word of authority is author. And so one of the first things I did was, well, I was good at writing papers in high school and college, so I will help this realtor write a book about the local market. And we brainstormed an outline, chapter outlines, and things to talk about and stories. And so I took several months and just wrote, and we cranked out like a.
Wait, we're talking months of work here, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
I was living at home.
Were you still living with your parents?
Yeah,
then?
I was living at home at the time.
Okay.
And
so you didn't have like a stack of bills that were.
No, it was basically all I had to do is pay for gas in my car, and that was about it.
Okay.
So
that's good to know.
Yeah.
I was scared there for a minute for you. I'm just like, what are you sleeping on park benches?
Yeah. So that's what I did. I just worked on this book, and like I actually got it to eventually. I think it was almost 240 pages, which was probably 20 times longer than any paper I ever wrote for school, right? And I
Yeah.
figured out at the time how to use, Amazon Create Space. I think it was called Create Space back then, to do self-publishing on
Mhm.
Amazon's platform. And we ordered several hundred books. This was right when Facebook ads were becoming a thing. So I wrote, a Facebook ad campaign offering a free book to anyone in the community who was thinking about buying or selling a house. We hacked together a landing page. And this was even before like the modern landing page softwares, out there, like High Level and ClickFunnels and whatnot.
So you're
So
using like what, WordPress at this point?
I think it was like a Woofu form, if you remember Woofu way back in the
Okay.
day. Plus,
Yeah.
I honestly can't even remember what sent the follow-up emails, but it's kind of a jerry-rigged funnel that I hacked together before the word funnel had even come
Mhm.
into the marketing world.
Yeah.
And that's how she got leads. And I mean, literally within a week, she had over 100 people who had signed up for this book with full contact information, because that's the
That's
cool thing about
amazing
offering a book is that if someone signs up for a copy of your book, you have to ask for their address, phone number, email, everything, because it's like, where do I ship the
to
book?
ship it.
Right?
So you're doing printed books, like
Yes.
physical.
Yes. And
Okay.
I really had to talk her
And were
into
they
that.
paying? Was this free plus shipping, or were you paying for shipping as well?
Free. Free. Yep. And I told her,
So what's that, like $20 per
yeah,
package,
it was
maybe, if you
probably
include
like
postage?
it was probably $4 or $5 a book, or actually no, it was probably at the time $2 or $3 a book. And then
Okay.
with media mail, it's a special postal rate you get through the United States Postal Service for shipping books. I think the shipping was maybe like $3. So you could pretty much put
Okay.
a book in someone's mailbox for like $5 all in.
That's really good.
Yeah, yeah. And what I
And
told her
then
too was that look at where the addresses are, because you're a realtor here. You know where the expensive neighborhoods are. If you're getting leads in the higher priced homes, do not ship that book. I told her, go drop it off in person at their
hand
house.
deliver it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this strategy
That
just,
would be so impressive. I'd imagine, like, I'm online browsing around, oh, free book, sign up. Couple days later, the author whose face is on the cover shows up and says, "Hey, I think you ordered a book."
yes.
Like, I'd be really amazed.
And
Really
now
amazed.
in the marketing world, I think that strategy has almost become a fad of writing a book. It seems like everyone and their grandmother has a book now, but this
No one
is,
hand delivers it though.
yeah, that's true. This is back in like 2013. So
Yeah.
no one was doing this. It totally caught the, town by storm. And within, I don't know if it was a year and a half, 2 years, I mean, she went from making like $0 essentially in commission to
Yeah.
making like $150,000, $200,000 eventually. And then she became like the top producing agent, I think, in her brokerage in the entire state of Minnesota.
Amazing.
And I'm taking 25% of all of her business, and I'm still college age.
Like in perpetuity.
Yes. So I'm like, oh my God,
Do you still have that deal with her?
no. So what happened was I found out.
I mean, because doing it forever is like, that's a big commitment for her too.
Yeah. I mean, I found out the hard way actually that it's illegal to take a percentage of a real estate agent's commission unless you are licensed as a real estate agent in that
Ah,
state. You can't take a percentage of deals. And I found that out because her broker just coincidentally happened to be the president of the Minnesota Board of Realtors while I was doing this. And so someone reported us. And so we kind of made a workaround where we would just calculate what her commission was every month. And then I would submit an
and then she'd
invoice.
pay you a fee.
Yeah, that would just happen to be 25%, of what she made
Yeah.
that month. And eventually he pushed me. He wanted me to get licensed because he saw that I was kind of good at marketing, I guess, for being a young kid.
Mhm.
And he wanted me to just join the brokerage as an agent, but I did not want to do that. And so eventually that was the genesis of me deciding maybe I
Wow.
should start an
So literally,
agency.
you got into the real estate niche because a desperate woman was the first person to say yes to your free service.
Yeah, there was no master plan. Yes, that would accurately describe what happened.
I think that's real life entrepreneurship. Like, you don't know what's gonna lead you where, but when you find the thing that's right and it feels right, you just off to the races, right?
Yeah, you kind of just
Okay.
go where the momentum takes
Yeah.
you. So, long story short, what got me from there to 220 clients is she referred me a couple people, got awesome results for them. They referred me a couple people. All of a sudden, I'm working with 10 clients and I'm realizing, I'm whatever, 20, 23, 24 years old at this time. And, I'm making whatever that is, $10,000, $15,000 a month, which was like a fortune at the time. I mean, frankly, it still is a fortune for most people, but especially when you're 23 years old, that was a lot of
Yeah.
money. I mean, I
Yeah.
was making more money than my parents were at that point. And actually, I was still living at home until I think I
Were you
was.
showing them this, or were you
Yeah, I
kind
mean
of keeping it under
they
wraps?
knew. I think I one year I cleared 150,000 living at home. Um, and I
Did they
was
start charging you rent finally?
they didn't, but I've tried to kind of pay it forward with taking my parents on
Okay,
vacations and whatnot now that I'm
nice,
an
nice.
adult. But I had to hire employees. And again, there was no business plan of like, hey, here's what we're gonna do in year 2, 3, 4, no income projections or anything that
Mm,
might teach you in business school. It was just, well, I have more clients than I can handle, and referrals keep coming in because my clients are getting results and they're telling other people. And so I had to hire, an employee and then another employee. And now we have, I think, uh, almost, I think, no, 25 employees
mhm.
in the US and another 15 full-time employees overseas. So like over 40 in our organization overall. And it's kind of crazy because that's that's how it happened. That's how it got started. I just realized if I built this marketing system for one realtor, as long
Mhm.
as I only work with one realtor per city, I can kind of duplicate that same marketing strategy with minimal effort because it's not like I have to
Yeah.
rewrite all the ads over and over again.
You just target a different city, and
Exactly.
they won't see each other's
And
ads, right?
obviously
That's
we're
amazing.
we're 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 customizing the ads too. So what works in a
Of
small
course.
town in Tennessee might not work in a big city in Florida, but the general strategy and the general systems of the ads pretty much stays the
Yeah.
same across clients, and so it makes the system very
Mm.
scalable.
I love that. Um, so, before we started this, we had a quick chat, and you said that you're talking about how you use content creation instead of for lead generation, more for client retention.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
So a couple years ago, we started a podcast, and when we started it, I thought
By the way, I love your podcast studio setup. It looks really pro, and you got the lighting on point. You got the camera, the microphone. Yeah,
so this is
it looks good. And if someone's listening to the audio, you should definitely check out the YouTube channel so you can see what this looks like. He's definitely got his studio dialed in.
so that's hilarious, Ken, that you say that, and I'm gonna go send this clip to my video producer because I'm not shitting you. I literally got this set up and I turned the camera on and plugged stuff in with maybe 10 seconds to spare before we started recording.
Yeah.
I hired a guy. He actually flew here from out of state who's like a cinematographer, and he was
Oh wait, this is all brand new then.
yeah. I have never used this setup until when we started recording this evening. So I was hoping it
Well,
would
I'm
work.
honored to be the first person to be on to be using the studio with you.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't have a teleprompter or an external monitor right now, so I'm getting a crash
Well,
course
neither
in
do I.
staring right into the lens of a DSLR.
I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah,
Like if I look over here, this is the monitor you're on.
exactly. I'm looking.
But
Yep.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
Ken.
But then when I look at the camera, like I could kind of see in my peripheral,
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm training myself. I call it black circle confidence. Just look at the
There you
black
go.
circle.
So
That's
I was really hoping, man, I hope I can stare right into this lens because I know I should have a teleprompter monitor, but I just haven't got that set up yet. But I mean, literally, I got this set up 10 seconds before 7 o'clock Eastern time when we started recording, and I was hoping that it would work because if it didn't, I was just gonna quick unyank everything and just use my laptop.
just use your
Yeah,
laptop, right? Yeah.
but so
Which would have been,
that's
but
hilarious.
no, great job to your videographer who helped you with this and stuff. But anyhow, let's get back to the story, guys. Do check out the video. Go click the link in the podcast description. Look at the YouTube video. Viewing experience is great. Um, so yeah, let's talk about the client retention.
Yeah, so most people who use content marketing, I think it's almost assumed that they're using content marketing to get new clients, right? Like the reason I'd start a podcast is to get new clients, or the reason I start filming short form videos is to get new clients, or the reason I do any sort of content, maybe writing a blog or writing a book, is to get new clients. And that's the reason we started our platform podcast as well, because I interview our most successful clients. We put out a couple episodes a month. We have fantastic, metrics on that. Most people are listening almost the entire length of every episode. It's not like the listenership is dropping off after 10 minutes. A lot of our episodes, like the average is like 60-minute listen out of a 75-minute episode, right? Or sometimes we have
Wow.
even longer. If I do a 2-hour episode, the average listen is 90 minutes on those episodes. And it took me probably a year to realize this, but it's because it was our current clients who were listening to it the most. And so over time, I kind of started uh, shifting, customizing what I would talk about. So I would consciously make these podcast episodes valuable for existing clients, because there's kind of this dynamic that of reverse compatibility in your marketing that I don't think gets talked about enough, where if all of your marketing content, whether it's a podcast, video, written content, whatever, if all of your marketing content is outward focused, where you're writing it only to appeal to people who haven't yet worked with you or your brand, it's usually not going to be very interesting or valuable to current clients. So it's not really going to
Mm.
help with retention, because it's usually too salesy. It's too focused
Yeah.
on, features and benefits and why you should sign up or why you should buy your product or service. And that's not necessarily what people who have already decided to work with you, that's not what they
Mhm.
want to hear or what they want to learn about. But I found with this, like this concept of reverse compatibility, if you consciously create content for people who are already working for you, like, hey, here's what to expect after you've worked with platform marketing for 90 days, or here's the most common challenges we see for clients who've been with us for 6 months. Here's the results you typically get. Here's a strategy that might not work right away, but once you've built up enough momentum after 6 months to 12 months, like, here's some things you can do, and we focus on content that's actually valuable for existing clients, but we
Mhm.
publish it publicly, right? That also is valuable and attractive for people who haven't yet worked with you, because they're kind of getting like a sneak peek behind the scenes
Yeah.
perspective on what it's like being your client, right? And so I kind of shifted our focus of our podcast and frankly a lot of our content to be valuable to people who were already working with us. And I've
Yeah.
joined a couple actually agency masterminds in the last year. So I've started to meet more owners of other digital agencies. And I've found out that it's actually pretty common for digital agency owners, because I honestly did not know this until the last year. It's pretty common for people to have a monthly churn with their clients of 5, 10%, sometimes as high as 15%, depending on what
Mhm.
industry you're in. And
Yeah.
I can't fathom losing 10% of our clients every month. We wouldn't have a business if we lost 10% of our
Yeah.
clients every month. The numbers wouldn't work. Over the last
Mhm.
3 years, I checked, we've actually averaged a 3% churn over the last 3
Month on
years.
month.
Yes. So if we have 100 clients, we lose 3 clients. When we had 200 clients, we'll typically lose 6 clients out of 200 in a given month. That's what makes the growth we've had possible, because we don't have to make 30 or 40 sales in a month to grow. We can
Yeah.
grow the company slowly, steadily by just making 7 or 8 sales a month. Because if we were only
Yeah.
losing 4 or 5, but making 8 sales, at the end of the year, you've
Mhm.
grown by a net of 30 or 40 clients, right? And so the key to growth is not actually making a bunch of sales. It's keeping your churn so low that like a
Yeah.
mediocre amount of sales still moves the needle in a meaningful way. And you use
Yeah.
content to accomplish that, right? Like there's no hack for retention other than just focusing on retention like crazy, which means you have to focus your marketing strategy on keeping your current clients
Mm.
engaged. And so this affects the whole business. So let's look at something like account manager
So how do you
metrics.
distribute it to them? Like, is there a subscription list just for them, or
No,
is
it's
this
just public.
public? But then you just encourage all of them
Yep.
to
So we have a
like,
private
hey,
Facebook group
check out
and
the
we
latest
will
episode and
email it
stuff.
to them. We'll post it in the Facebook group of, hey, here's the newest podcast. Here's the newest
Mhm.
podcast episode. Right. And
And you
we,
do it with every single episode.
yeah, because like we're not putting out
Okay.
every week. So it's not as if we're just
Yeah.
overwhelming them with constant episodes. It's usually 2 a month. Sometimes if I get lazy, it might be 1 a month, but the average is
Yeah.
probably 2 a month.
Hey, I want to put in a quick plug for you. If somebody were to want to listen in on these, and by the way, we're like 30 minutes in, 40 minutes in.
Sure.
If they're
Okay.
listening this far, then there's something about your story that they're curious about. Uh, Tell us where they can find your content. Is it a podcast, you said?
Yep. So it's on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just search for the Platform Marketing Show.
The Platform Marketing Show. We're going to drop a link down below. If you're listening to the podcast, check out the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, look at the description. And at the end, I'll also ask him whatever other links he's got for us. So back to you. Sorry. I just want
Yeah.
to put in that plug in case right now somebody's interested, because I'm curious. I'm thinking the listener might be too.
Yeah. And really what those episodes are is I just interview our clients who are having success. And again, obviously, most of our clients are having success. So nothing else you do in a marketing agency matters if your clients aren't having
Mhm.
success. All the cool
Yep.
tactics and podcasts or Facebook ads or whatever don't matter if you're ultimately not getting your clients results. But because what we're doing for our clients is actually growing their business in a meaningful way, I have a waiting list of clients right now to interview on the podcast because we have so many
Yeah.
success stories, even in a really down
Amazing.
year in the real estate market. This year that we're recording this, a 2023, real estate transactions are down about 30% in most markets.
Mm.
The actual
That's a big drop.
Yeah, the actual number, the volume of transactions. Home prices are still
Yeah.
pretty much the same, but the volume of transactions, in other words, the opportunities realtors have to earn a commission have decreased by about 30%, but we still have tons of clients who are having their best year ever. So I have all sorts of success stories that I can share. And we just talk, I just talk to them about
Amazing.
what ads have worked the best. I'll even ask them on the podcast what specific Facebook ads have worked the best for you. And we try to get as specific as possible because one of my biggest
Mhm.
complaints in listening to, podcasts or attending conferences, masterminds, whatever, is when people talk in generalities and they never actually get down
Yeah.
to the practical specifics. So we
Yeah.
we really try to get as practical as possible in talking about what ads work, how much do they spend on those ads, what's their budget, how do they follow up with the leads,
Mhm.
if there's any other strategies they're using beyond the platform marketing program that enhances the effectiveness of what we're doing with
I love
platform.
that.
So I try to make it as valuable of a podcast as possible, whether you're working with platform or not. Uh, Ken, there's
Yeah.
one more thing I want to mention in terms of how focusing your content on retaining clients and on current clients moves the needle of the profitability of your agency if you're in an agency business model. Uh, think about the amount of time you spend with a client every month, because that's one metric I've identified that I don't think most agencies think about. They obviously track things like income and expenses and payroll and all that and churn and how many new sales they made. But think about how many hours a month you spend with your clients, because most agencies, that number is probably an hour or less. They kind of think of any time spent with a client as like a necessary evil. And yeah, we're going to
Yeah.
manage your ads, we're going to edit your videos, or we're going to handle your PPC or your Facebook ads or whatever. And we might do a 20-minute, like a reporting call, every month just to tell you what's working. We've gone the opposite route. And I think that's why we get such different results than a lot of agencies in our niche is we typically are talking to our clients for 20 to 30 minutes on the phone every week.
When you say we, like, is this you personally,
No,
or
so
you have like a
our
client account
team, we have a
management team?
team of account
Okay, so you
managers.
are someone on your team.
Yep, we have a team of account
Yeah, I was just
managers.
trying to imagine 220 clients.
No.
Like, do you get it? And you.
So we have a team of account managers. Each of them works with usually 20 to 25 clients total. And they have calls with all their clients every week. Usually those calls are 20 to 30 minutes long. And it's a one-on-one phone call. So I want to emphasize that we're not
Mhm.
talking about big Zoom calls with 50 agents on. Like, it's a one-on-one phone call
Yeah,
with every client
absolutely.
every week. But then because I'm also doing podcast episodes every month that a lot of our clients listen to. I mean, not every single client listens to every single podcast episode, but
Mhm.
most of them listen to most of them. And so let's just say
Yeah,
that they don't listen to both episodes that we put out in a month, but they listen to one of them and it's an hour long. Well,
yeah,
that's an extra hour they spent with us, which
yeah.
basically doubles the amount of time that they had with their account manager that month. So it's
Mhm.
almost the equivalent of adding another account manager in terms of time spent with the platform brand. And so I think that
Yeah,
makes a huge difference in retention long term, because it's kind of evolved
absolutely.
platform marketing into like a coaching program that just happens to also do your marketing versus being
Yeah,
a marketing agency that tries to coach you. I think that's an important distinction.
yeah. I love that. I've tried to do that, and I don't know. Maybe we have a different type of client, but my clients were just like, no, like I don't have time for all these calls. Just give
Sure.
me the goods. But maybe we just need a different approach. And we even hired like additional account managers because I thought they were gonna love it.
Okay.
And they're just like, no, just give me the files. We got this. I'm just like, okay. I think, yeah, maybe I should research that more, like how to make them actually want to, have these calls. But I think that if I was in the place of one of your clients, then and I see everybody else doing it, and there's that whole community aspect where you're listening to each other's stories all the time, then I'd be eager to do that. So maybe what's missing is the environment that causes people to want that
Yeah,
and to desire to be a part of like this community of realtors.
yeah, it's been both a cause and an effect of
Hmm.
community. So I think because we kind of already had a sense of community in the group, this strategy
Yeah.
took off, and then it just enhanced and became an effect of, of the community as well, and just made it even stronger. And
Mm.
from a sales perspective too, I said it's kind of reverse compatible. So because I produce a lot of our content with our current clients in mind, it also works for sales. So what we have our salesperson say is, if you ever schedule a call with her name is Diana, she'll say, okay, great. Well, if we have a call scheduled, let's say on Thursday, she'll send you homework before the call. It's, hey, please
Hmm.
review this specific podcast episode. And she'll pick an episode of our library that's most relevant to that prospect. Cause maybe a realtor is in Georgia and they're in a somewhat, let's
Yeah.
say, small town in Georgia. Well, we have enough podcast episodes by now that we have several podcast episodes from clients in Georgia that are in somewhat small towns that have had success. So she'll pick a really
Hmm.
relevant success story of the platform marketing show and say, hey, before our sales call on Thursday, please listen to this specific episode.
So
And
she's got to have a good knowledge of all the episodes
yeah,
and or
yeah.
a good
And
database searching system, right?
Ken, I will tell you 9 times out of 10 when she hops on the sales call, they're like, yep,
Yeah.
I already listened to the entire thing. So let's say that episode again was 60
Nice.
minutes. They're going into a sales call with her already having been brainwashed about the success
For
of
60
platform for
minutes.
60 minutes
Amazing.
before they ever hop on that sales call. So that makes, I mean, we right now are closing, it obviously shifts every month, but it's somewhere between 50 and 75% of people who talk with us on the phone sign up. And
That's a really
that's
good
because of the content
that's
we
a really good
produce.
conversion rate. Dude, I feel like I've got so much I could learn from you from the agency space because I'm mostly interviewing people who are my typical like coaches, course creators, trainers, those kind of people, you know. And they're not talking about this. You're talking about something that I could actually apply in my business facing those kind of people. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I I think that if there's one piece of advice that I took from this, it's how can you create the message for your client base more than for like and as a side effect, it can be a lead generation or conversion tool, but the main focus being that. What would you say to other agency owners like yourself who might not be creating content yet? Do you have any advice for getting started? Like, I mean, everybody knows it's
Yeah.
there's a lot of rock stars who are doing it. Also, I'm sure everybody has seen or experienced asking for a friend. Uh, People who try to do it and they've really fucked it up, wasted time,
Sure.
and regretted it. So how should they be navigating this today?
So this is kind of an adjacent answer to your question, and I'm going to try not to dodge the question, but I want to go back to the importance of getting actual results for your clients. Because
Mm,
if you're getting amazing results for your clients, like with platform, it's very common that our realtors who hire us, within a year to 18 months of hiring us, we have literally doubled their business. Like they've gone from making 120,000 to 250,000, or they've gone from 200,000 to 380,000, whatever, right? We have all these case studies where we've very meaningfully grown our clients' businesses. So
mhm,
because of that, we have all sorts of source material for content. So even if I'm not very good at creating content, because of just the stories I get to work with, it makes content creation easy, whether I'm writing
mhm,
Facebook ads or recording podcast episodes or filming videos. When I have source material like that to work with, I don't have to like psych myself up about, what's the best way to say this, or what's the best settings to use on my video camera, or how do I make the audio sound good or whatever, because the quality of the stories I'm telling kind of speaks for themselves.
yeah,
If you YouTube high hanging fruit, I actually wrote a book called High Hanging Fruit for Realtors, the opposite of low hanging fruit. Because
I
I think,
like that. I like that
I think
already.
realtors should
That's
target
good copywriting right there. Just the title.
yeah, I think realtors should target high hanging fruit because you have less competition there. And that's kind of a tongue in cheek way of saying target leads that are a year out, not the people that are 2 months out. Because if all you're doing is buying PPC leads on Zillow, et cetera, that's where all the competition is. So it's almost ironically not low hanging fruit if that's where all the competition is. So we intentionally
Mm,
set up our ads to appeal to people that are 8, 9, 10, 12 months away from buying or selling a house, because that early in the
yeah.
sales cycle, you're probably the only realtor that they're talking to. So that's high hanging fruit 101. I wrote a book. called High Hanging Fruit. We had so many success stories just several years into the business that we actually hired a video producer to produce a legit documentary about our clients. And we filmed it not in the form of a video or an infomercial, but it's filmed in the pattern of a documentary. And so this guy has done work with like Toyota, Aston Martin, Whole Foods, I mean, like big brands. And so we shelled out money to produce this really, really high production value documentary. It's on YouTube. So if you search for it, it's just High Hanging Fruit, the movie on YouTube. And
Gonna
again,
definitely check that out.
almost every single person who signs up tells us, oh yeah, I watched the entirety of your video on YouTube. And, we'll ask them like, well, how much of it did you watch? And they're like, well, the whole thing. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's like 75 minutes long. Like you watched a
Oh wow.
75-minute documentary about our brand. Like I probably thought I was better at sales than I was early on when I was doing all the sales, when in reality, these leads were so warm coming to me
Mm,
because of the marketing content that we produced that I thought I was good at sales, but the leads were just so warm. That's the power of
yeah.
content marketing.
Amazing. Amazing. So I do like the way you answered the question. It's like get so good at getting results that creating content is a piece of cake. Like it literally will just fall in your lap because the results are there, and all you have to do is, you know, pick up a camera and document the story of how it happened. Right. That is that's the long game you're talking about here. It's the long game.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't
nothing
market and then
else
hope to get
matters.
results for the people you bring in. Get results for the people you have, document it, and that will be a virtuous cycle.
Yeah, Ken, one more thing I'll add on that just to put some metrics behind this, because again, I want to get as practical as possible, is many months over the last several years, we've had net negative churn. So that's a term that usually you hear
Okay.
in the SaaS world, like net negative
Yeah.
churn. And what that means in an agency is that many months we actually get more warm referrals from our clients than we have clients quitting. And so even if I don't spend a single dollar on paid ads to acquire new clients, many months we've experienced, hey, we lost 5 people in the last month, but we got 6 referrals. So
Mm.
for almost all of 2021, and probably half actually of 2022, you know what our paid ads budget was every month?
0.
0. So we were an agency that grew to 250 clients without spending any money on paid ads because I was just putting out podcast episodes for our existing clients. They were getting
Mhm.
so fired up about the results that they would tell their friends in other states, obviously realtors that aren't their competition, right? If you were
Yeah.
an agent in San Antonio, you're not going to tell other agents in San Antonio about Platform because you want it for yourself, right? But
Yeah.
they would tell their friends in other areas about Platform, and we had net negative
That's the
churn
beautiful thing
every
about
month.
local business is that if you get it to work in one area, then you can just deploy it everywhere.
Yeah,
And that's something I haven't experienced because I don't do local. I
sure,
just everything I do is global.
sure.
So, but now you're getting me to think like, how can I make this local? Because then you could experiment
Yeah,
and deploy different tactics in different areas, and then see what works, and then spread it out
yeah, it's been fun.
without sabotaging your clients. I love that. I love that. Okay. Look, what I'd love to end this with is how do you get in touch with you? Like the listener, they're interested. They want to see your podcast or maybe uh, work with you. If they're a realtor, they might want to hire your services. Let us know what's the best way for people to get in touch with you.
Yeah, so the best way to look us up is actually go to platformmarketingideas.com. And this is a whole other rant I could go on, but we built an ugly blog, and I literally call it the ugly blog. It's platformmarketingideas.com, and we just give away all of our strategies for free. It looks like a website that was built in 1996 because I literally told our web designer, make this look like a high school student made this with HTML in 1996. I want it to look old school.
Coding on Notepad, right?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a GeoCities website if you remember that, right? Like
Okay.
we wanted it to look old school, so the focus is on the value of the content itself, not that we're trying to make it look cool. So it's platformmarketingideas.com. That's our ugly blog where we try to give away everything we have for free. And if it interests you, if the strategies that you read about on that website appeal to you, then obviously there's blue hyperlinks at the very bottom where you can reach out to us. But you have to scroll all the way to the bottom to get to those hyperlinks to reach out. So from a marketing perspective, it's radically cut down the amount of leads we get because we don't have
Yeah.
exit intent pop-ups or calls to action above the fold. You have to go all the way to the bottom of like a 1,000-word article to find the hyperlink to get in contact with us. But it means that when
Yeah.
someone does get in contact with us, we know that's a warm lead.
It's very intentional.
Yeah.
Very
Yep.
intentional. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, guys. I recommend the fact that you're with us all the way to the end of the show tells me there's something about what was shared that spoke to you, connected with you. I do recommend check out the links down below if you're on the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, look at the description, check out those links. Highly recommend it. And I'm so glad I met you. Well, not the audience, Tim, off in Costa Rica, of all places. Me coming from Japan, you from the US,
Yeah.
meeting in a third country. This conversation has been extremely educational, but not just educational, also motivational to me to figure out how to connect better with my own clients and help them get better results that they're willing to share. So thank you for that. Me personally, I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Ken.
Now, for everybody else, make sure that you rate this show. If it's 5 stars, give it 5 stars. If you feel like this was a 1 star interview, then let me know that too, so I know how I can ask better questions and make it more entertaining and educational for everybody. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next episode.